Hey everybody, Doug McCarron again. Douglas Scott McCarron again. I have to keep naming myself, remember to name myself properly. Doug McCarron is that old, vindictive, pissed off, dark person. And, I don't know that it really matters, but calling myself Douglas Scott McCarron kind of reminds me that I'm not that person anymore. Um, I'm recording this on a night when it's really hot in California. We got large sections of the state burning, but fortunately not down where I am. So I have a lot of windows open, fans going, so you may hear some background sound. Or maybe this mic's really good and it'll cut it out. Anyway, there's a topic that has been going on in my head that I've noticed a lot. And the note I wrote down to myself to talk about is get liberated from those old morals. It's interesting because, there's a lot of people go around bashing Christianity and Judaism and Islam and all these like old way of doing things. They're like capture your mind. You need to be liberated from those morals so you can be free and open. But I'm a history major and I studied theology, and there's just something I've noticed as you study things. Like in Nazi Germany, they would sit there and tell all the kids to give up your morality your parents had about treating people right and everything, because it's definitely the survival of the fittest. And you just need to let go of those old morals, those old caring for people that you can't defeat, because, they're lesser humans and you don't want to be held back by those old morals. Communist Party did the same thing. A lot of them actually belonged to something called, what was it? The Society of Atheists or something like that. I'd have to go back and look at it. But they also had, get rid of the old morals. Now, I'm not saying, given the imperial designs and king designs of the late 19th and early 20th century, I'm not saying that the way things were politically were wonderful, because basically you had the thing where the ruler was the ruler, you defined everything, you're a ruler, and everybody had to go along with what you wanted. Democracy kind of rose up as opposition to that, where you talk to the people. But, then you get into the Depression and the economy starts falling apart, and, you got the pandemic going on with the Spanish flu, the misnamed Spanish flu. And there was a lot of, we gotta overthrow these old morals and do it a new way. And so you got the fascists and the National Socialists and the International Socialists all saying to stop that. And in China, they're talking about getting rid of Confucianism. And it's also true when you get back into in the 1800s, there was like the great, what was it, the 1848 revolutions, where, a lot of people were trying to overthrow the old way and you had to get rid of those morals, and let's all sleep together in various combinations, and, boink whoever's in the group, and no marriage and all that stuff. Of course, they also had a great big syphilis outbreak right after that, and a lot of people got pretty badly destroyed by it. But this whole throwing out the old morality is interesting. It's like morale, the AL means to have the attributes of the more. More is just the way it's done. The public's set up this way. This country is set up this way. And so you follow the morals and the morality of the culture you live in, which, granted, a lot of it was made up. It's a lot of the religions, it's kind of debatable. Did they really come from anything bigger than just a bunch of people arguing? Islam I'm not picking on Islam. They have this whole thing that Muhammad wrote the whole thing and then it got edited. But, a lot of the people around right after Muhammad probably had some influence on it. And then there was that thing, I can't remember who it was. I can't remember if it was his wife or his daughter went off, sneaking off somewhere, and it was claimed she was all virginal and everything, but that caused a big to-do. But, the whole belief, that the intense belief, in Christianity and Judaism and all these various religion actually comes out of your own judgments and feelings within. That's where you feel it. You get, this is the way it is, and then you judge others. And in some religions, they just go kill the people who don't go along, which results in some interesting things. I don't know if you remember, there was that young woman who got put to death as a blasphemer in Afghanistan about 10 years ago, and turns out she was actually a theology student, and all these people at the market were selling little trinkets and idols to each other to try and, pray to God to make God do things the way you want it and give you something. And she was talking out against that because that's not accurate in the Quran. And so she was called a blasphemer by somebody, and they killed her. And then later on, it got revealed what was really going on, and everybody felt bad. I don't know if anybody went to prison, though. But there's always just this, let's toss out the old ways, and we'll make up our new way. And it kind of leaves any wisdom that those from the past might have wanted to impart to you if you just kind of toss it out. And again, I'm not saying all the old mores are the truth. But, my experience personally, and from what I've seen most people, is they aren't really tossing out the mores. They're just upset from things that happened in their childhood and that they didn't get their way. And so they're pissed off that they didn't get their way, and they want to judge the whole thing and make everybody else wrong, never looking at what they did in the whole thing. And so they want to throw out the old mores, which is really their internal judgments about stuff other people told them who were operating out of their internal judgments. It's just kind of goes on and on. Love thy neighbors except the ones you don't agree with. Let's go kill them. They're infidels, or the country is a reflection of my beliefs, and anyone who doesn't agree with my beliefs is a traitor to the country, and they have to be dealt with and thrown out. And so, nowadays and all around the world, but in particular, in the United States where I am, you got all sorts of people going out and marching and throwing rocks at each other and busting up windows, and don't even really know if they're protesting anything. I think some of them are just crooks. They want to break into places. Some of them actually want to have political change. And some of them just have a desire to vent at the authorities because they're upset about something that happened within themselves. But going back and studying the mores, the morality of the past is pretty interesting, because, I've mentioned in one or two of these previous shares, that there are very smart, intelligent people who designed these mores and morals. And they got kind of codified into history. There's also a lot of not necessarily smart people who keep trying to twist things around and have it reflect themselves, so it's hard to really tell what's going on. It's like the King James Bible. It's called the King James Bible because it was there to support King James and his claims to the throne and how England should be set up. It's not like the personification of the Word of God. It's just they made it say what they wanted to. And in the end, a lot of the Bible is, I was a theology student, and there are various versions of the various books that are in the Bible, and extra biblical books out there. What was it? There's also councils where they got together to argue this out, and there's the big argument in Christianity, at least. Did Christ come here as God and atoned for the sin, or did he evolve into godhood? In the first one, he's distinctly different, and we can never aspire to be as him, so we get forgiveness through him. And the second one, if he is grown up to godhood, well, we can follow him and do it too. He's not quite anything special. He's just a teacher who shows us how to become gods. Very different views of Christianity, So they would argue about these things, and I can't remember the council, but there was one point where the church was about to pass all these rules, and a bunch of monks showed up with big staffs and beat the tar out of them, and then voted on the way they thought it should be, and then all of those monks got arrested, and then they had another council and voted in the other way. So who knows where a lot of this comes from? But, there are things like take care of the poor. That's not necessarily true in most countries. A lot of countries just, it's your problem. A lot of people actually believe if you're poor, it's because God wanted you to be poor, and I'm rich because God wanted me to be rich, and I get to lord it over you and control you. But just, generation after generation of people saying, we got to throw out the old mores so I can be the one who's right about how things should be and define it. And that may be true. But I would suggest that also is you getting very cemented into the way you thought the world to be, and then making everything refer around yourself and your beliefs from what happened to you when you were younger and all the stuff you made up out of that. Which basically you're just reinforcing your own prison. So I guess I'm just saying, I read a lot of history books and theology books and pondered these things, and I would suggest you do the same thing just to learn. It's one of the big surprises to me, because when I studied theology, I actually had to read the Bible from cover to cover 4 times, for the class, and it was quite enlightening to discover it does not say what I thought it said. Very different. Like, for instance, there's the thing where Jesus says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And a lot of people have decided God forsake Jesus on the cross, and it was a test of his faith, and on and on. But, the Pharisees and the Sadducees are sitting there recognizing what he's saying, because he's actually quoting from a proverb. It's one about declaring the majesty of God and how wonderful God is. Jesus isn't saying he's been forsaken. He's quoting a victory psalm. That was very different from what I expected. Anyway, I get that you might want to revolt against morals and mores from the past, but just remember that's also a way you can get stuck and cemented in how you are without expanding out beyond yourself. And it's also a way that some political groups turn around and manipulate us. Things are not as the way they appear to be. All right, thank you. Have a good night.